You enable us to invest in the skills and talents of our people in the areas of sports, culture, and nation building.
Good evening and welcome again to once more to MTV Community Forum. I'm your host Byron Campbell and of course our co-host Chris Diali. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Byron, and good evening to our viewers and listeners. We're happy to be here again for another Wednesday.
Chris, we have an interesting evening. We have a long list of subject issues to geopolitical, local politics, social issues, name it, and we're here. We have a number of persons that would be joining us via Zoom during the session also. But Chris, let's start immediately. Chris, there have been reports, allegations, I would say, let me be very clear, of certain unacceptable behavior from visitors to the island, Africans, this from Ghanaians or Nigerians, and these are entirely allegations. What are you hearing, Chris?
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
The Honorable Leader of the Opposition mentioned it in Parliament as well, and there is some concern that the behavior of our invited African guests to celebrate Africa Day ended up in this sort of, issues that are there. But I heard the Leader of the Opposition talk about cultural differences, and we need to be clear about that as well. African culture is quite different to us in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And how they treat their women and not is something we have to be careful with, and how that can, influence what happens here. But I think it has, based on what has happened, the government needs to investigate this and find out what the allegations are, the truth behind it, and if so, in the future, when let the visitors know that we have certain norms and things here that may be different to theirs. So they have to take time and understand our cultural differences and operate accordingly.
I would want to add to this, and I want to make very clear here, Chris, that this type of behavior is individual behavior. It's not a national behavior of any nation. And we had to understand that in Grenada we have Nigerians and Ghanaians and others who live, study, and work here. Some at SGU, for example, and professionals in health, education, and business. So, let's be clear on that, and this is entirely. But a bigger question arises, Chris, that what generates this kind of behavior, if it's true? As you mentioned, cultural misunderstandings and poor impulse to control, or impunity and low risk of being caught, whatever it is, or power imbalance, visitors who feel outside the system may act differently than they would at home. This sometimes happens. But I think, as you mentioned, what should happen, that victims, if it's true, should be encouraged to report immediately to the police and get medical and legal support. Police should investigate also, I believe, and release factual updates to the public if this is so. And if foreign nationals are involved, Grenada and the relevant embassy would follow up standard consular procedures. This is important. And community leaders from both Grenadian and West Indian communities, West African communities, can help address the issue directly and protect reputation on both sides. So as we mentioned, reporting, let's investigate, because these are allegations. We have no factual, but certainly if this occurred, it's unacceptable.
Of course.
Entirely.
And, we are looking to widen our relationship with Africa and West Africa in particular, and countries there. So we need, as countries, to understand what obtains and what we believe is normal, and we have laws against these things here. So, as you say, we need to investigate it and see what is there, and then adjust it through the embassies if that is the case.
Chris, and I want to go internationally now and look at the Gaza situation, Chris. We have not been speaking about it. The war in Iran, U.S., Israel, that's been dominating things, and a lot of us believe that the situation in Gaza has gone away. It hasn't, Chris. I mean, when you keep in mind that 75,000 Palestinians killed, 1.4 million displaced. Of the 75,000 killed, 70% are women and children. Let's talk about that. But the living conditions there, we're learning that children are suffering from severe malnutrition, exposure and disease, the collapse of medical infrastructure. That has left very little hospitals functional. So it's a dire situation there, and we're not hearing much about
Let's call it for what it is.
Yes.
It's a genocide.
It
of
is.
the people in Palestine. I want to add,
Yes.
in the 21st century, we have 3 wars raging.
Yeah.
Russia, Ukraine,
Yes.
Israel, Lebanon, Palestine,
Yeah.
and then the Iran war with the US. Could you have imagined that in the 21st century,
Yeah.
after we went through World War II, we would be a world where we
Yeah.
have 3 active wars raging and people dying every day, and bombing continues with drones and all of that. And the world, in my view, and I don't know anybody, we just sitting back. Yes, you have sanctions on Russia. Are they working? We have no sanctions on Israel. They can do what they want.
Yeah.
They had a ceasefire, but yet still they're breaking the ceasefire and nothing happens.
Nothing happened.
Right? And that is a country that they talk about genocide when the Jews were being persecuted by
Yeah.
the Germans.
Yeah.
I don't think they're any different.
Yeah.
When you look at what they're doing to the
Yeah.
people of Palestine, now Lebanon, southern Lebanon, and what's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
So it is just unbelievable that we can have countries like the US and supporting countries like Israel in their nonsense. It is just unbelievable at this state of our development in the world.
It is.
And I mean, I want to go back to the US, Iran, just to belabor the point a little.
Yeah.
The price of oil per barrel is now over $115 US per barrel. What is that doing to us? The war is thousands of miles from us. But what is happening to the price of gas and energy? The price of electricity for us, the price of food, because freight prices have gone up. And what is going to happen to tourism and airfare costs? That's an important, crucial sector for us. So food,
Tourism, from a tourism point of
yes.
view, yeah.
So at the end of the day, we are going to be impacted severely. I think CARICOM came out with a release recently and talked about Trinidad, Guyana, and some of these countries that are going to be impacted severely. They have a fertilizer issue for food and food security. So the world is being plunged into a situation that is becoming tenuous. African countries are struggling to get fertilizer to keep their production levels up. So I'm not understanding, Brian, I'm kind of confused.
The reason for the war, the
Yes.
justification for
Justification.
all the objectives.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it?
So you reach a situation where you have to kind of explain to the people, how you're navigating this. Governments have very little room
Yeah.
to deal with it. Our government kept gas and diesel at $17 a gallon, and they drop kerosene, but they're losing money because at the end of the day, if gas or diesel are arriving in Grenada at $18 or $20 a gallon, the government's subsidizing, right? So they're losing revenue, impacting their cash flow. So there's a lot of things that are happening, and we as a people, we need to be careful how we approach the next 9 months. Because if the war was to stop tomorrow, it's taken us 9 months to normalize, right? And the US just seem to have they bomb Iran again, they start bombing again. So the Straits, the Hormuz Straits, you don't know what's
So
happening.
we have
there.
no resolution to date.
No
That's the
resolution.
point.
We
So,
have no resolution.
um,
It's disheartening.
Chris, in the region now, Caribbean Airlines or Regional Airlines, they recently announced that they will be adjusting their schedule,
Yeah,
their
the routes.
destination, the routes. So they're dropping St. Kitts and Nevis, they're dropping Dominica, they're dropping Suriname, I believe, and some linkage between Guyana and Suriname. So this is very unfortunate, I believe, at this point, because of the implications of intra-regional trade and people, the movement of people. So what's the solution? Where
Well, that's
are
the
we
point.
going?
When Caribbean Airlines announce things like that, is because they're feeling it in particularly the price of fuel.
Yeah.
And there's just so much you could pass on to the customer. Nobody will fly.
Yeah.
So the other alternative is to drop routes that probably were not financially viable or were close to breaking even, and now with the price of fuel moving where it is, they're certainly not financially viable, so that has dropped roots. The immediate consequence for us in the region is reduced access to travel throughout the region as businessmen and to export your goods and your services.
But how do we measure essential connectivity versus commercial viability? You know, what role should the government of the ECCB region, for example, should we be funding regional airlift?
Well, we tried all formulas in the past already when it comes to funding airlift.
Yeah.
And the only way governments, Trinidad can't have asked Trinidad to giving them subsidies to help with the fuel costs. The only other way is to pass it on to customers. Remember, they had a fuel surcharge years ago when we had a crisis,
Yes.
and so on with oil and what was going on.
Yes.
We may have to resort back to that, but it's not just fuel. If you're not getting the loads, the passenger load, to make a flight viable,
Yeah.
then it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Even though you put the charge on customers to fly with a fuel surcharge. So it becomes difficult for the airlines, and CAL is a regional airline for us, and they fly very important routes. So it will be a challenge for passengers from Guyana and Suriname, Dominica, and so on. How we get in there? There's Inter-Caribbean, and there's a so-called LIAT that could fill the gap. But think about Dominica and what's going to happen to Dominica in terms of movement of people, tourists coming there, and produce and services is going to be a real difficult thing for them.
So governments may have to intervene.
Well, yeah, but the government's under pressure with inflation already. And cash flow with fuel.
But why other airlines are able to run profitably? Why are we?
How we know they're running profitably?
Well,
we have Inter-Caribbean and we have LIAT. Both of them struggling. Right, so we're not sure they're running profitably, and we're just increasing in
it costs
price.
more to go to Barbados than to go to Miami.
Well, yes, and that is because of taxes, of course,
Yeah.
At the local level
Yeah.
that governments have instituted, and probably that is one of the areas they could look to give some relief on for passengers could move.
Yes.
But it's how much based on the extent of movement of gas price or fuel for the aircrafts. If the aircraft fuel have increased by 60%, and removing a government tax at the airport is only going to help by 10%, then it's still in making it viable.
Chris, we want to take a short break, but when we come back, one of the issues we want to touch on is the situation in Cuba. We understand that Cuba, we know the situation going on there, the problem with the energy, the embargo in the U.S., and so, but we want to look also at the reforms that Cuba is in fact going forward with. And joining us for a short time will be Chester Humphrey. So after the break, viewers, will stay with us. We'll be right back looking at the Cuba situation in depth.
Laboratories, providing quality care and expertise. Fit for life and allied laboratories. See our in-house doctors and our pharmacies. Get expert care and quality tests. When it comes to your health, you deserve the best. Fit for life and allied laboratories. We're taking care of Grenada.
Get ready for the ultimate culinary showdown. It's Flavors Face Off, Mom vs. Dad. Saturday, June 6th at the Monrouge Plainfield from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Register now. It's free and bring your best dish to the table. Cash and exciting prizes to be won. First prize $2,000. Second prize $1,500. Third prize $800. Only one team will rise to the top, and the excitement doesn't stop there. Be there for the official launch of MTV's Vibes to Spice Mass, your ultimate showdown to Carnival. Don't miss it. Register now and be part of Flavor, the fun, and the vibes. Flavors Face Off, where taste meets competition.
Don't tell me I can't. Don't tell me I can't mash it up.
Welcome back, viewers, MTV Community Forum. And joining us at this time is Chester Humphrey. And everyone knows Chester, trade unionist and everything else. Good evening, Chester.
Hi, good evening, Byron and Chris, and
Yeah.
a good evening to your listeners
Yeah.
and your sponsors. Yeah.
Thank you, Chester, for joining us. Now, we want to look at the situation in Cuba, Chester. We're aware of the embargo, U.S.-led embargo, 65 years plus and running. We know the energy crisis now again as a result of the embargo and the suffering that is taking place in Cuba. In other words, everything has been affected: schools, hospital, medical, transportation, food, everything. So we know it's a dire situation. We know CARICOM, and we'll touch on that. CARICOM has responded. We know their efforts in individual countries, even here in Grenada, where citizens for Cuba, there's all kind of fundraising and everything going on. So we have an obligation to help. But the issue here, Chester, I want to raise is, given the embargo, given if the embargo stays, what reform will give Cuba the biggest economic relief right now? Is it property rights, private sector, remittances, or something else? What should Cuba, what's the future here? How do you see this matter?
Well, the Cuban government and the Cuban people face a very grave situation. Their sovereignty is threatened as never before. And I don't know that the United States, under international law, has the force of law to enforce any kind of change in Cuba as the United States sees fit. The arrogance of this neo-Klansman Donald Trump is unbecoming, that he can announce publicly that he can take Cuba. I mean, what is this? Is he the new Morgan the Pirate? What's happening here? There's a clear, unadulterated violation of international law, a fundamental breach of the sovereignty of an independent state and a people. And so the world is entering a phase now of total lawlessness. I mean, threatening people to bomb them back to the Stone Age and destroy everything, more than a settled threat of the use of nuclear weapons. I mean, quite frankly, the United States has gone crazy.
Just
So I don't know. For the United States for over 60 years, let's be clear on a number of things, first of all, Byron. Cuba presents absolutely no military threat to the United States. It never did. It isn't presenting such a threat and never will. Right? Cuba represents a very fierce outpost of independence that the United States has been trying to strangle, not because Cuba presents any military threat to the United States. What Cuba presents is a threat in so far as an alternative form of governance in the Americas, and the United States is of its belief that this region belongs to it.
Just I understand that, but remember the question is what, and we assume that the embargo stays because we see nothing in the U.S. to change it. So Cuba's response for economic relief, where should it be heading? Reforms within itself, remittances. I mean, how would relief come? How would development come?
It's difficult to answer that question, you see, because look, what the United States is pursuing is complete surrender. And nothing that Cuba does, to my mind, will be enough to satisfy the Trump Klansmanship that has taken power in the United States. A racist organization with a racist philosophy and highly militaristic and with total disregard for human life. You just have to see what's happening in Gaza.
Would Cuban reform, would any reform improve the situation there? Is that?
I don't know. Well, I know there are talks between the Cuban government and the United States. The details of those talks, I don't have that information, and I don't think anybody outside of Cuba does. And all we can engage in is speculation. It is not for me to say what the Cuban government should do or ought not to do. I'll be totally out of place.
We saw a current a release where they're now allowing Cubans to stay in excess of 24 months outside of Cuba. Cubans can now retain their property if they are out of the country. So there we see some reforms, but there should be more of that.
No. But I'm saying to you, Cuba has been engaged in reform for quite a bit now. I mean, since the collapse of the Soviet Union, which placed enormous difficulties on the Cuban economy and so on. In fact, the greatest damage to Cuba is not so much the collapse of the Soviet Union, but the tightening of economic sanctions in violation of international law. The vast majority of states of the United Nations every year has condemned this unilateral imposition of sanctions against the Cuban state and the Cuban people. So I'm saying, I can't sit here and prescribe for the Cubans what I think they should do and what my duty here is to rally support for a people who have given much to the world. That's my duty. It's
So just the Secretary of State
to construct what prescription the Cubans should follow. It's a matter purely for them.
The Secretary of State in the U.S. have indicated that they would like to see regime change. And I suppose the way they're planning to do that is to pressure the Cuban people and the government that if the people look to uprise or make uprisings against what is happening in the country, they will get us some sort of regime change. My issue is that what are countries in our region and outside of our region going to do to change that track? Because the U.S. put the sanctions and other countries have not come forward in any major way to help relieve the situation.
Well, let me say, I mean, it's a very complex situation. The United States is a dominant power, although it's a decline in power. And what we are witnessing here is the response of a decline in power to its decline. And all of what has been done now is the ulterior objective is the United States' way of trying to combat China. But they have a problem, because China's foreign policy is built on friendship and peace. China is not a warmongering state. China has not invaded anybody. I mean, throughout its history, right, China has been the subject of invasions. It has now redeemed its sovereignty and its integrity as a state. It is marching on, and through peace collaboration, China has lifted the largest single block of humankind out of poverty, and it has done so within one generation. Some 300 million people, unsurpassed. So what the United States see as a threat is a model in which countries can escape poverty and develop, and the United States is very fearful of that.
Yeah, but we have approximately 12 million people in Cuba or more, more or less, and they're on their dire straits. The issue is, the question to you is, Grenada's effort with what we have been doing, the concerts and so on, the projection of help that we could give Cuba is small in the context of, say, for example, restoring their energy needs. When you look at various news media, Cubans only get power for probably 3-4 hours a day. You cannot operate a society and be productive on that kind of schedule. So my question to you is, I know Grenada have been supportive, but what really can we do to change the needle? Is there anything we could do?
Some objective truths that we must recognize. And yes, Grenada's population of 110,000 people can do very little in this game of world politics and the dominance of the United States, who sees itself as declining and therefore is resorting to war. And but I think what Grenada has shown is Grenada has shown to Cuba that it is grateful for everything the Cuban government and people has done for our country, and how small it is we are giving back. And I think that the Cuban people and the Cuban government will deeply appreciate it. I mean, they understand our limitations, no doubt about that. But the fact that we can go out on a limb, the fact that we can deny the United States access to place its military arsenals in Grenada to attack another friendly country, and Grenada did that fairly successfully, We have not signed on to allowing Grenada to become a dumping ground for undocumented people that the United States have been rounded up in Gestapo fashion and to be sent out. And so we have serious limitations, and we ourselves are under threat.
Yeah, but Chess,
Right,
I wanna,
so
Chess,
that's
I
right.
wanna,
So-
because we run at, but I wanna enlarge that question that Chris gave. But what role should Caribbean Solidarity and CARICOM in particular, CARICOM play in pressuring for the embargo relief and supporting Cuba reform? That's
Well,
the point.
I think the voice of our position is a very important ingredient. Yes, there are limitations, because only 2 Fridays ago, Trump signed an executive order which finally collapsed all kind of shipping connections with Cuba. We used to have a shipping line here that left Grenada, went to Jamaica, and then on to Cuba, and we were able to ship stuff to our students and so on in containers. That doesn't exist anymore. It was I think an Italian company and one a Greek company. That doesn't exist anymore. So as of 2 weeks ago, there's no sea contact at all between Grenada and most of the Caribbean countries to Cuba. So that presents a challenge. I think things now have to possibly come out of Mexico, but Trump himself is threatening Mexico. So it's a very dire situation.
And the question, Chester,
China
is,
arrived in Cuba a few days ago with supplies, but again, we are talking about 12 to 13 million or so people. So yes, a ship will bring some relief, but the question is, and as you correctly say, a modern state and a modern economy cannot survive without electricity. It's the only source of power, really.
And the issue is that we have no China,
nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
we have no China or Russia saying that they're going to send one of the military boats to escort a shipment of oil to Cuba so they could generate some electricity. We don't have that. We don't have these countries in this modern
But that's
era,
what I'm saying.
in the
But what
21st
we do have-
century, putting their country online to say we're going to deal with it.
Step back a bit, because it's not the first time that the state of Grenada has made its contribution to an international issue. And my mind goes to the struggle against apartheid. In the heat of the struggle against apartheid, what did Grenada do? Grenada provided passports and support to the ANC. We couldn't send soldiers, we couldn't send weapons, we couldn't send food, but we did whatever we could. And I think therein lies this example. So it would not be the first time that Grenada is responding to an international. And remember, during the heyday of the anti-apartheid movement, both the British government and the US government was opposed. In fact, they supported apartheid. The British government and the American government voted against every resolution to put economic sanctions against the apartheidists in South Africa. And what was Grenada's position? Grenada's position was that on every occasion that the matter came up in the United Nations, Grenada lent its voice to the struggle against apartheid and the establishment of democratic freedoms. Ultimately, we lived through to see that apartheid was eventually defeated. Nelson Mandela became the first black president. So I'm saying, yes, what we can do is very small, but I'm saying millions of voices of humankind around the world can make a difference.
Is CARICOM doing enough? Is CARICOM doing enough?
Well, let me put it this way. I have my disappointments about CARICOM, and as you know, CARICOM is not united on this. Even the watered down communique issued by CARICOM in recent days, both Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago abstained. They refused to lend their signatures to that. So CARICOM is not united on the issue. Again, our region is subjected to the traditional divide and rule policies that colonial governments and what we are seeing here now is a neocolonial imposition on the region by the hegemon to the north, the United States of America.
That's all the time we have. Any closing comments, please, before we go? Yes. Thank you.
Well, what I can say to the Grenadian people, that what we are doing is morally just and morally right, and we should continue to support. There is another collaboration with the people of Mount Morris again this Sunday. So there's a special breakfast again put on for that occasion. We are raising these funds with the view of helping different institutions in Cuba, as small as it is. And my urge is for Grenadian people, and then there would be a $1 program in which we are targeting the schools and asking every student to contribute $1. I think there are 30,000 students in Grenada, I believe, or 25,000. If every student did give $1, minimum of $1, that's $30,000. So I must salute the committee that's doing this work, because we are the most active support group in the region. In all of the region, Grenada is the most active support group, right? So our efforts continue. The task looks daunting, but so towards our liberation and
thank you very much, Comrade. Our pleasure. Thank you. That's all the time we have. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chester. We appreciate. We'll have you again. And it's important to know that there is a fundraising and breakfast, Mount Morris breakfast this weekend is in support of the Cuban.
I just got a WhatsApp from a friend saying that April and May of just gone, there's a Turkish floating power plant, which continue to provide 25% of Cuba's total electricity supply. The vessel is Belgian Sultan, also known as KP, arrived in Havana Bay to help stabilize the island's struggling grid. So they are countries
they're support. And Mexico says, look, we're going to help Mexico to defy the U.S. Chris,
that is our way of defining what is happening.
Chris, we have coming up a special guest, and we're going to be discussing the gambling situation. But before we go there, before we get our guest on to look at the gambling in Grenada, because that's an issue that's raising its head here, the extent of it and the implications of it. But this is mango season, Chris, and there's a lot. This is a huge mango season, and there's a lot. And guess what? They're spoiling. Most of it go to rot, go to waste. We have not really done anything to maximize on the value of this important product.
Year after year. Yes. We have no active agro-processing plant.
For mangoes.
For anything. We had nothing going on. So when we talk about agriculture, and we had a gentleman here last week or week before from ICA talking about what they're trying to do.
Del Sol,
what they're trying to do to get things going. But our governments prior and this one can't seem to get any serious agro-processing going on in the country to deal with our fruits when they become seasonal or when they become in abundance. Mango is just another example. And mango, I drove through Sauters last week, and when you see the amount of mangoes on the side of the road, in the drains and so on, is really disheartening.
It's a lot, Chris.
And as you know, our mango juice is a lovely juice.
There's a lot that's still on, because even the exportable ones, there's a lot, it's ripening, it's falling. I mean, this is a bumper crop, I can tell you, compared to last year.
So it's disheartening that we can't find, and our hotels, could absorb so much. And I'm hoping that we could sell to the hotels and offer our visitors, our unique mango flavors.
Chris, I want to go online. We have Dr. Justin Pierre with us. And good evening, Dr. Pierre. Oh, no, okay. We have to take a break first. So viewers, stay with us. We'll be right back with Dr. Pierre.
Clean? At Allied Laboratories, we offer indoor air quality testing for commercial and residential spaces. Our rapid test results provide precise ratings of common air contaminants and will recommend the best actions to eliminate them effectively. Why do an indoor air quality test? Protect immunocompromised occupants. Detection of mold and bacteria. Identify volatile organic compounds. Identify particulate matter. Identify harmful pollutants that may otherwise go undetected. Enhances safety and comfort. Breathe easier and live healthier. Allied Laboratories, bringing quality laboratory services directly to you.
For Grenada to realize its true potential, we must all be a part of nation building. From every corner of the world, our sons and daughters carry the spirit of the Spice Isle in their hearts, through culture, innovation, investment, and service. Now is the time to come home to your beautiful Tri-Island state, to reconnect with our roots, share our knowledge, to inspire our youth, and to help shape a stronger, more resilient economy for generations to come. We are all part of the collective journey to shape the future of our nation. Together, we are building a nation we are proud of, a nation defined by opportunity, unity, and purpose. Grenada is more than a place on the map. It is our heritage, our future, our home. We look forward to welcoming you.
Welcome back, viewers, and as we continue our discussions, what has come up in recent time is the issue of Woodford and what is going on with the Reno company up there as it relates to what is happening. We have been informed that the group that have been asking questions about the quality of work and the particular approvals have just taken the matter to court and in challenging some of the issues that is going on here. Reno now operates asphalt mixing plant in the Woodford area. So there's issues about the particulate matters that may come out that could cause health issues. There's a lot of issues about how they went about the construction, issues raised on artifacts in the area and whether they paid attention. But what I think is alarming is that here it is, we have a Physical Development Authority, statutory body, and they have seemed to not follow the law in its essence, in that here's a company moving ahead without particular approvals, like a EIA, for example, and the government through PDA have allowed them to continue building and developing. So, Byron, the question is our government complicit in this issue with Reno and they're getting the final authority? Because in every other instance, if you are building a house and you submit plans, you have to get full approval before you could start. These guys have started without full approval.
Yeah, well, what we know, Chris, is that Reno had started this activity without getting the permission, the authority from the Physical Planning and Development.
They had just stopped them at one time.
Because the Grenada's Physical Planning and Development Control Act requires environmental impact assessments for projects likely to have significant environmental impact. Was this bypassed? Yes, it was. What's the legal recourse on with the Act? So clearly this is what happened. They stopped work. Work was frozen while Planning Authority gave instructions that the various EIA and assessment must be undertaken. However, in this process, the government intervened and said, look, we can't wait. So the government is responsible for authorizing Reno through the planning authority to proceed in the absence of the assessment, the environmental.
The law requires certain things.
So it's the government that is it wrong. Reno is operating under permission. They said they're following the authority instructions. But the question is, critical question is, how do citizens challenge this? What's the role of civil society in this, and the media also?
The civil society is saying nothing.
So there is a group I'm aware of in Woodford, in the community persons that are either considering taking them out of the court or have taken them out of the court. I don't know the specific about it. But clearly, it is a matter that concerns the community because they have complained about dust and the potential noise and other factors, of course. The government is making a big push right now in the election, well, I don't know, at this moment, to have a number of infrastructural work, a lot of roads. I've seen dozens of trucks.
Remember, our Prime Minister is the minister responsible for infrastructure work. So is the Prime Minister overriding the authority of the statutory organization called Physical Development Authority.
You asking me that?
No, well, I
don't know,
question out
Chris.
to you because he stood in Parliament and some time ago and
Yes.
said we should not stop,
Yeah.
production and issues and things like that. So there seems to be an unholy relationship between that company and our government, and the issue is, are we going to flout the law allegedly?
So is
and let them go ahead?
is there an economic trade-off? We need the jobs, we need the investment, the long-term environmental cost. Is there a sustainable model? I think, Chris, I understand the urgency of it, but I'm saying that I'm familiar with the community, so I know the community quite well. I know the area that's been impacted. There's some impact on the road network, the Farmers Road also in the area. There's other factors. I know also there is a wetland area in the Woodford Bay. I don't know what is the impact on this. So there's a lot of issues there. And I think it was critical, still remains critical, that the impact assessment, because the impact assessment will also determine the best model,
I saw an interview with Calistro Faria recently with the gentleman from Reno. I'm not sure if he's the CEO or the owner.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, he had to supply 400 tons of asphalt mix to the government for the projects.
Yes.
And he was inviting the public to come up and see the plant and how it operates. And he says one of the most modern plants in the area. But does it address the issues that the residents in the area are raising? And this is a concern. And here we have a government that is saying nothing about what is happening there with this particular contractor and what they're doing. And when you see the kind of capacity Reno has invested in recent times in the Boucherville area, just in trucks alone and other heavy equipment, you understand that this is a company that seemed to be targeting a lot of the projects.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, and they're building a PR. I know that, for example, they have assisted the farmers with the farm road, some making it motorable in the past. So this has been a positive thing they've done. But clearly, where people are impacted, where lives are going to be impacted, I understand the economics of this.
Yeah, but this is a simple thing.
The EIA, the impact assessment.
A company has to follow the rules and the laws as every other citizen.
But the company's saying they're not breaking the laws. The government has given them permission.
Well, the government then has to follow the laws.
That's the point. That's the key point here. We have to face the government now and say what is going on. Chris, I think we should go to
Mr. Dr. Pierre, Justin Pierre.
Dr. Pierre, to look at. Good evening, Dr. Pierre.
Hello, good afternoon. How are you today? Good afternoon.
We are good. It must be afternoon where you are fine, but I can tell you now it's after 9:30 where we are. So I assume you're in another part of the world. Look, we want to talk about gambling. We're not going to talk about politics tonight. Let's be very clear here, Dr. Pierre. Gambling in Grenada, what we've seen, first of all, your authority, we are talking to you because you have taken, you've done some assessment, investigation on this matter. What we know that, as a fact, that it is a growing business in Grenada. We know the population attracted to it are not just young, but all classes of persons. We know that recently there was a winner in a gambling field of $1.3 million. So we know it pays off big money. It's profitable for a lot of people. But what we want to talk to you a bit, what are the implications of all that? We know that also the government raised revenue through gambling, through, Lotto, or what's the other one called, Chris? Blast and others. So Dr. Pierre, what have you found? How would you describe our gambling habits, a gambling reality in Grenada?
Okay, then. Well, thank you again, and thank you to the viewing public. Yes, this information came to me by accident, generally by accident. I wasn't, as I said, I don't live in Grenada, but I keep a good. I have a good intelligence. We have a system that collects data, and I'm a consultant for a country in the Caribbean region, and my job as a consultant is a World Bank project. My job as a consultant is to assist the government with the active labor market policies, meaning that the ways in which they can stimulate employment among youth, deal with unemployment, underemployment, and employment, and what have over that period, so we pull. There's something in statistics called the Gini coefficient, the ability for a country to deal with unrest in the country. So we pull in all of the stats, and that country has a serious gambling problem. So I was coming to find out ways to solve that gambling problem. And I say, well, we looked at the data. I said, well, let me, as a Grenadian, as a patriotic Grenadian, let me pull some of the gambling data from all of the OECS countries. And when we start pulling the data, I was shocked, I was surprised. We find out from the data shows that Grenada is rapidly becoming the gambling capital of the OECS. Okay, what we found out is that what has been, what used to be some harmless is now fast quickly becoming a social issue. What we have seen is that the recent data that we have shows that Grenada shows that 53% of Grenadian youths under the age of 20 reported exposure to gambling, compared to 46% of the OECS youths within the last year. So it is a serious problem. What we have also looked at, in fact, I've called 3 times to the Lottery Corporation, that in 2020, the average income resources for gambling was about 8.2 million, and I'm still, that is subject to correction because I wanted to triangulate the data from the Lottery Corporation. So $8.5 million on total revenue for gambling. In 2025, it was $22.1 million, almost 300% increase. So it is a very, very serious situation. We also, it is very serious because Grenada has the 19% of all youths under the age of 25 live in Grenada. And what we're seeing is that youth violence, in fact, close to 80% of the children said that they have witnessed some type of gambling-related violence.
But Dr. Pierre, let us look at the upside of it. I mean, it provides tax revenue for government, as you mentioned. It's jobs in the sector, people are employed, and it's entertainment. Can we look at that?
At what cost?
So it is entertainment, but the entertainment at what cost? It is an issue among the youths. It's affecting the youths. As a result, we see there is a high dropout rate in school-aged children. We see that gambling is becoming more and more prevalent. So the large majority of youths under the age of 20 are exposed to it. That it's becoming more and more. And when you ask people, what are the reasons? What are the main reasons for gambling? And it is obviously lottery. I mean, but people say that the why. We have to look at, especially the people within the social community have to take no notice of that.
But Dr. Pierre, what is driving though? What is driving the growth in Grenada and the Eastern Caribbean? Is it mobile access, unemployment, lack of regulation, all three? What's driving this though?
It's combination. It's lack of access. So, for example, there is a lot of marketing. So, especially the Lottery Corporation has marketed tremendously over the last 5 years. But we online access. The gambling is easier to get gambling. Also, we see that the informal gambling has also increased. If you go around the island, you will see little young children playing the cards, the wapi, the romi, all for money off the side of the road. So it is becoming a social issue. And because remember, gambling is a disease, is an addiction, and if we are allowing young children at that age to be addicted to gambling at that age, it will definitely affect their future. So we ask people, what are the root causes? Why do you gamble? And 93% of persons said due to economic hardship. They see gambling as a form of employment. They get a source of revenue, and this makes the situation very, very, very serious. And that's why, as I said, we're not blaming anyone. We're asking persons, both the persons in the NGOs, persons in the government, the churches, for persons to reach out and have a debate about that, because it is getting worse and worse. So this is what.
So, Dr. Pierre, we've seen gambling in other countries. Are there any regulation gaps, like in the Grenada or the Eastern Caribbean, versus places like the UK or Canada? Or should we ban certain products, limit hours, or mandate harm reductions? I mean, how do we fix this?
And there's another question I want to pose to you, Doc, and that is the issue of women in these gambling centers, which seem to be the prevalent issue with sex. And I don't know if that speaks to social issues as relates to finance and support, but if our women are getting more and more involved in the particular brass type of gambling that is happening throughout the country, it also speaks to a dire, more severe problem that we have.
Yes. Gambling is, especially women, the persons who are most vulnerable are women. So women are getting involved in gambling. You have issues with spending your allowance. You gambling out your allowance. You gambling your paycheck. People believe that winning the lottery is a way to get rid of poverty, because we have to remember the most vulnerable persons, the poorest people in the country, are those who are most likely to gamble. When we look at the laws, all of the countries have laws. In fact, and Grenada has tough regulations on books. However, when you look at the youth protection scores, we have very low youth protection scores. In fact, we have the lowest youth protection scores. So for example, when you look at the youth protection, what do we do to protect our youths? The country that has the highest protection to protect youths is St. Lucia, which has a 48% score, followed by Antigua, which has a 45% score, St. Kitts and Nevis 42% score, St. Vincent and the Grenadines 38% score, Dominica 40% score, Grenada 35% score. So we have the lowest in terms of score that protect our youths against gambling. And this is something that we have to all work on. It's not one person problem. It's not the Lottery Association problem. It's not the government problem. But everybody must come together.
So, Dr. Pierre, so we're looking for solutions: public education, treatment services, advertising restrictions. Yes. What do you recommend here?
It's combination. So, for example, in this country, they are taking persons into a rehab, because it's a disease. Okay, it's a mental disease, gambling, and this idea of trying to win, and you give them counseling. You have measures to stop you from gambling, and there are other areas that intervention that people can use to get you stop gambling. But gambling is something that is prevalent, and especially among young children. And as I said, adults are fine, but the young children, it is definitely a challenge. Yeah. And we calling on the principals, there are schools, the Parent Teachers Association, to all come together to have a debate, a national debate. I'm willing to provide the stats. It's a World Bank project, so I'm willing to provide the stats. So it is, and it will get worse and worse and worse.
Dr. Pierre, that's all the time we have. We want to thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll join us again, because this is an ongoing matter again. Thank you very much, and have a good evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Chris, one of the issue too. I mean, we're looking at the formal aspect of it, but within the communities, on the corners, on the blocks, there is this informal gambling, and it goes all night. And related to this, Chris, is what we have a growing prevalence now of what is called skin the pegs. You know what skin the pegs are?
I have no clue.
Chris, well, you should find out. It's what's taking place in Mount Horn, Maryborough, name the community, and it's happening. Once you have a little shop or little businesses, you can invite it. These are strippers, you know, that's taking place. People, I met a young man today, and he says, look, last Friday I was there up to 6 o'clock. I mean, and money, you know, it's economics. I mean, what? But that's for another discussion, Chris. But something we need to look at.
If the gambling issue is causing something like that to be happening on the social side, then the issue is, what are we as a people and a government? And I mean, Dr. Pierre alluded to it. If the PTAs and the schools and the communities, the churches not bringing this up as a matter. This is how we're talking about gender-based violence. It is something that is probably linked to it and what is happening there.
It is, but
so we need to ventilate more on this as we go forward.
They told me about this.
And strip the peg.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what that is. I mean, there's something we've got to get somebody to come and talk about.
Yes, I think so. I'm not. But it's happening, and young people are telling me about it. What's taking place, Chris?
I want to talk
election
politics.
Yes, election. Chris,
NNP had their convention this weekend.
Yes.
And we don't know what changes may or may not come from the convention, or it may stay as is based on the candidates they have put out. NEC also have a mega rally coming up. And with they're trying to merge that with the diaspora homecoming so that they could show the numbers and what is going to happen and possibly start building the momentum. As well, some people are estimating the Prime Minister is going to announce in the rally when is the election and what is the date. So, you know, some people are going to be paying close attention to that as the rallies come up by NDC and NNP convention happens over the weekend. So we are looking to see what come up by now. What's your thoughts?
But what are the factors, Chris, that will cause a government or party to call an early election?
Well,
you think it's happening in Grenada? What are some of those factors?
Well, I mean, early election normally will cause opposition to be surprised and with their pants down and they're not properly ready. Barbados just did it. And Barbados was successful and they won overwhelming majority. So there is, I mean, Antigua wasn't, I think it was during Antigua. So governments will play that based on what information they have statistically and otherwise. There's two ways of looking at it. The longer the incumbent wait to call an election, if there are weaknesses in their program, is going to exacerbate the weaknesses. Whereas the opposition will be given more time to come up with solutions and so on. So lengthening it and going to the time when it's due has its risks. Calling it early also has its risks. So there is something that, you know, the Prime Minister in our system is the ultimate man with the power to call the date. Of course, in discussion with his party. But it's all about readiness and how we see where the momentum will go in terms of when the parties decide to do that. But when you look at what is happening in the electoral office and they're getting ready, is a sign that it is closer than we expect. They have started training their people, they have put out their lists, they are calling their people to come and into particular plans and talking about organization and so on. So that is also a signal that it may be closer than we expect.
Last week we spoke about the diaspora and the importance of it and the role they should play. Now the diaspora, that's when they're going to be in Grenada. I think that's around the time when the mega rally, the NDC.
Sometime in June.
I think it's the 21st, somewhere around
sometime
there.
in June.
So they're going to be here. But the question is, what role the diaspora play in an election? In other words, are they big enough to swing the election in a particular way in terms of their participation?
Well, it depends. I mean, when you looked at the last election and the victory that some constituencies were won by, some of them weren't more than 100 votes. I mean, you have some 1,000 votes, 1,500 votes. If you could get a diaspora to contribute to that, then it could swing it.
It could swing it.
The issue, though, is the diaspora people registered, and I
And the
suspect that is
cost, and
what.
the cost of FA to come home,
Yeah.
maybe the party is going to sponsor it. You
Yeah.
want your
That
diaspora,
has happened in the
you
past.
pay for it. This happens.
Yeah,
It can happen again.
probably they're looking to see how it could be
Chris,
influenced.
the other matter I want to raise here is the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Sir Timothy Antwine, has been making a big point. He called it a big push for economic growth. He says moving beyond stability to aggressively tackle the structures. The overwhelming goal, he says, that ambitious target of 7% annual economic growth. He says this is important. If you're going to move from where you are, this is going to be important. The question is it feasible? Can it happen? 7%?
Well, GDP growth at that rate has not happened in the region. Take Guyana out of the
Right, out of yes.
So Guyana is an outlier.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
within the OECS in particular,
yeah.
we have averaged between 3 and 4% GDP
Right,
growth
yeah.
consistently over. And then when you look at the downside risks that can happen to our economies through natural disasters, hurricanes, and so on, and how that can impact the economy, I understand what the governor is saying. The governor is saying that at that rate, we could secure our future better if we have GDP. Then the issue becomes, what are the sectors that are going to drive it?
Yeah.
Is it traditional tourism, traditional
Tourism
services,
is at its peak already.
CBI? What is going to drive it? And I think that question and the answers to those questions is going to be key.
Yeah.
And when we look at the geopolitics that's happening,
Yeah.
we see then even further risks coming to deal with what we have to deal with.
Chris,
as
listen to what he
society.
says. Wealth creation. He says shifting the regional culture, our culture from simple saving to actively investing. The ECCB aims to increase the percentage of our citizens participating in Eastern Caribbean securities market from 4 to 20%, right? He said financial inclusion and digital innovation, scaling up the partial credit guarantees program to help farmers, fishers, and small business access finance. Additionally, the ECCB is championing real-time, low-cost cross-border payments in local currencies. Then he talked about climate and economic resilience, ending the regional historical yo-yo cycle of economic development, while progress is repeatedly erased by climate shock and global inflation. Promoting food security. I mean, we've heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, the governor has to put a strat plan in place
Yeah.
to
And
see
he
how
has
the
one, I
region,
don't know.
how the region can move from where it is in this kind
Yeah.
of stalemate area.
Yeah.
We have a lot of risks to partake
Yeah.
in, and what is going to happen. And I hear him talking about introducing more financial instruments for people
Yeah.
to invest in and so on.
Yeah.
That is a good thing.
Yeah.
We have companies now that looking at your credit score. That is a good thing.
Yeah.
That has been pushed
Credit
by
bureau,
them.
yeah.
Yeah. So there is some good things that ECCB are looking at and doing. Our financial institutions, they have kept the dollar, the EC dollar, very consistent and well backed. So there are some positive
Yeah.
things that
Yeah.
we could build on
Yeah.
and see how we can move us from a step change in what we do financially.
7%, Chris.
Right. So yeah, well, that's 3% more than we average now. So
in the global context,
in the thing. So
energy
it is
and,
about how do you motivate your people
Yeah.
to move your monies from a 2% savings account to get it to 4 and 5% in these instruments. We have a mutual fund that was recently launched by a company from Trinidad. So there are instruments that are coming in play. And institutionally, you may get companies to invest in them and grow what is happening.
We
in
had to
terms of
try to
wealth.
get someone from the bank to come and elaborate on this, on the strategy, Chris. I know there's one thing you want to talk about, Chris, about the road construction. You've seen a lot of debris, drums, empty drums by the road. What do you want to say about that?
First of all, I commend the government and the extensive work being done on the road
Yeah.
and to create, a better traveling surface for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I am dismayed at, the drums that have the pit solution
Yeah.
are just left on the side of the roads, and it does seem as though the guys who are doing the road works remove the drums. It is a form of litter that stays months on the side of the road when the rain starts to fall, and nobody seems to be responsible for taking them and bringing them up to Perseverance where they need to be disposed. So I'm raising it early because now is the dry season. We're doing a lot of roadworks. There are a lot of drums. If you're driving up the St. David's on the eastern side, we all have done all the drums still on the side of the road. You know, and they're blue. So you can't miss them.
I hope they're listening, Chris. It's unsightly. Chris, a long evening. Your closing comments, Chris.
No, I think, Byron, we have a lot of challenges facing us. Geopolitically and what is happening. I heard a report recently from 2018 to now. We have seen a 60% increase in the cost of food. And we haven't spoken about energy and transport and so on.
Yeah.
So all governments, including ours, are going to be challenged in how they navigate this issue. And we have very few levers that we could push or we could pull to deal with the situations that's facing us geopolitically and otherwise. So it's not going to be easy, and I think all of us as citizens need to reconsider our positions, reconsider where we are with what inflation is going to bring in all aspects of life that we know, and see how we can navigate as well and help the government with what initiatives they may put on board to guide us through this difficult time.
Couldn't say it better, Chris. I just want to close also by saying that, look, the rain season is about, the hurricane season is also about, so keep those two things in mind, your preparation, your preparedness, and with the rain season, plant something, like food security, grow something. It's important. Viewers, that's all the time we have. Have a good evening. I want to thank our technical team and MTV management. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.